One, welcome to another episode of Tech with Hero, and today is going to be an interesting episode. I am your host, Hero Nkechi Omolola. Today's topic is going to be on how your temperament influences your execution strategy. Most times, you wonder as a techie, why do you do what you do? Could be as a result of your temperament, and that's why we brought a guest here to share with us how our temperament influences our execution strategy. So sit, relax, get your coffee, and let's dive straight into today's episode. Yes, so we have our guest here, Isaac. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, please can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Oh, yeah. My name is Isaac Gertie, and currently I lead banking as a service and other product as Temperament.
For how long have you been in the system in tech space?
In the tech space, I think I've been in tech space all my life.
Okay, and let's talk about the topic. When you heard about the entire topic, how your temperament influences your execution strategy, what were your thoughts around it? Do you think it's something that, oh yeah, temperament really influence execution strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually worked with a lot of people, right? And while working with them, I noticed that some people are good at some certain things than the others. And even personally myself too, I noticed there are some things I'm very much comfortable doing than the other things. And behind it, I started putting things together like, okay, so why is this person this way? Why does this person make decision this way? Why do this person behave this way? And at the end of the day, I just realized many of the times temperament actually goes a very long way. I'll give an example. Recently, I was working with an engineer that is not very great with paying attention to details, right? And his communication is very poor. While he knows how to do some certain things in engineering, he's not. I noticed that he's not really excelling per se, right, in his role because of those temperamental lapses,
Okay.
right? So generally, I would say yes, temperaments actually have goes a very long way, rather, uh, in our career.
So you've heard that temperament really influence execution strategy, and we have some questions that we'll be asking, and we can actually learn from the insights it's going to be sharing. Um, can you share your thoughts on how these various temperaments manifest in tech roles? You can be specific or you can make it broad in different tech roles.
Okay, so I think in the past I wrote an article about
Okay.
how temperament actually influences people, and I use quite a number of popular people, right, in the tech world. For example, I remember I talked about Elon Musk and his style or his leadership style, right? I talked about Steve Jobs and how he does things. Steve Jobs, that guy that actually paid attention to details, right? He's very keen on details. The same thing with this guy, Jeff Bezos, right? They put them and they pay attention to details and they care a lot about um, these little things. Unlike someone like Elon Musk that actually cares so much about, let's get this thing out, let's get it done, right? So I would say that in the terms of tech career, most times, right, our temperament actually goes a very long way. And that is why if you go to some websites today where they do, they give you tests, they give you tests to take for them to decide what area of tech they will advise you in taking your role in. Most of the questions are majorly behavioral questions. How will
Oh,
you do this?
true.
How will you do that? Right? And that's to give insight into, are you analytical? Are you a very analytical person? Are you that kind of person that pay attention to detail? Are you vision driven? Do you solve problem for the now, right? Or are you planning for a very long term, right? So all those things are things that are just quite very important to in the choice of our career. So I'll say, for example, right, a product manager, for example, should be very good with data. It should be very analytical, okay, so if this thing happen and that happen, if we have this data here, this data is saying this, that data is saying that, can we actually, if we bring these two together, what is the outcome we should be expecting? Or because data is saying this, what are the next step I need to take for me to be able to achieve what we need to achieve? So that's a lot about being analytical. On the other hand, for an engineer, for example, an engineer is just concerned about, okay, what are the steps I need to take to details for me to be able to achieve this, right? So that's why I say that when writing algorithms or when they're designing algorithms, right, they pay key attention. Do this, then do that, then do that, then do that, then do that. But again, when it comes to leadership, taking leadership role, your vision is not about what you're doing, as in what you're doing. Your action is not about what you're doing right now.
No.
It has a whole lot to do with what you're doing, as in what's the long term implication of this. So you're visionary, you're thinking into the future, right? And let's go back to temperament, right? You know that those four key temperaments, the sanguine, the phlegmatic, the
Right.
choleric, and the melancholy, right? Whatever it is. You notice that some of them, for example, the sanguine, they live for the now. They are men of the moment. They talk, they play, they're life of the party, they're very emotional, they're this and that, right? Um, However, a choleric, on the other hand, like they'll walk like they want to die. A melancholic person, right, would want to focus on those details, right, and they just want it to. They want everything to be perfect. They want them things to go certain ways. Then, lastly, you have the phlegmatic. Those are the reserved, the quiet ones. They're the observant ones. They observe everything that's happening, right? And different traits. So the important thing is when it comes to temperament, right? You need to understand what your temperament is, and from there you can build on it. And again, the good thing about temperament is temperament comes with being self-aware. You have to be self-aware. When you're self-aware, you
Know what to
understand
do.
how do you manage, you understand how to manage your weaknesses, how to optimize for, or how to compensate for all those parts that you think you're actually.
Yeah, so while you were explaining, yeah, you had mentioned behavioral tests that techies take when they are trying to like get employed in during the interview process. So are there cases whereby they kind of use this temperaments to gauge them that, oh, I don't want this person or I want this person?
Yeah, so actually, I've sat on a couple of interview panels before, right? And I've had HR say stuff like, this interview is more behavioral, right? We just want to understand how the person behaves. Sometimes they tell you it's a culture fit interview, right? So these are some of the things they actually look for. They might not necessarily come out and tell you that, oh, they're looking at temperament, right? But they're looking out more for, has this person been able to, how balanced is this person, more like, right? So they won't come around and tell you and say, oh, we need a choleric for this role, or we need a phlegmatic for this role. What they're looking for is the person that's actually been able to balance out all those things,
Okay.
right? Because I can be outspoken and still not fit for a
The
role that needs
role.
an outspoken person. Maybe I'm overly outspoken, right? I can be meticulous, I can be detailed and very meticulous with what I do. But again, there are some other things that needs to compensate for those areas to make me a perfect fit. So most times they won't come out and tell you that, oh, this is specific temperament we're looking for, but they're looking out for those behavioral patterns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank. Okay. So have you ever found yourself clashing with someone whose temperament greatly differs from yours? And in cases like this, how have you been able to resolve and align together for execution purpose?
Definitely, there's always built-in diversity, right? So when that happens, it happens from time to time, and it's a normal thing, right? In fact, if you don't have conflict, right, then something is not right, right? So one of the things I just try to do is I ensure that I understand the person's point of view. I also let the person understand my point of view on that, right? We both want to achieve the same thing. We might have different strategies on how we want to achieve that. So, in as much as we are working together, we might not be able to apply the two strategies at the same time. So, what we rather do is we both sit, we both discuss, right? We have conversation, And that conversation is majorly for us to understand each other. Okay, I need to understand from what angle you're coming from. You need to understand from what angle I'm coming from. This is my point of view about this. There's your point of view about that. These are my considerations that's different from what you are considering. These are your considerations that are different from what I'm considering, right? And from there we come up with an align as we come up we're aligned, right? Because we are working towards the same goal, right? We need to ensure that we're aligned, right?
True.
So we're not listening to respond, we're listening to collaborate. Um, back in the days when I used to be in the Drupal community. So Drupal has this very popular word and popular statement they make. They'll tell you that it is collaboration over competition, right? So learning to collaborate. Both of us are working towards the same goal. So why are we competing on that same goal when we can actually collaborate and get the response and get the result that we actually need?
Oh, that's a good one. So in essence, there'll be a part whereby both parties would now have to sit on and discuss how they can
Move forward.
move
Yeah.
forward and align together.
We
Okay.
are listening to work together, right? So that's where that effective communication comes in again. So we listen to understand, we ensure that we are aligned on our goals, right? Then we have effective communication, which we rub minds together, we exchange and we converse together, right? Then the next thing is once we've done that, everybody's focus will be on solution, not on the differences we have.
Yes.
We focus on solution. What are the best options we have from your point of view? What are the best options we have from my own point of view? Is there a way we can marry both of them together and come up with something that is very hybrid? And most of the times, out of these differences come very unique and very unique solution that is better than what each of us was actually thinking about. So I would say there are four key things I personally consider. Right, the first one actually is for us to understand. The next one is for us to align on our goals. The third one is effective communication, and last one is we focus on the solution that we're actually working on. Thank you.
Yes. So, do you think there are certain temperamental traits that can affect execution? And if so, how do you mitigate those tendencies?
Our temperament is actually the fundamental for how we, as individuals, is the fundamental or is the foundation, right? Or is a, that influences our behavior and our actions. So when we actually don't tame those temperament, when we don't tame those temperament, right? It tends to actually cut us or rob us of a lot of things, right? So definitely yes. The answer is yes. There are some traits that can actually stop us from achieving or executing the way we're supposed to. Some of the some of the some of the ways to actually there are ways to actually mitigate it. That's the good news, right? There are ways to mitigate that. We have self-awareness. You have to be self-aware. What am I good at? What am I not good at? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses?
Weaknesses.
Right? And you're not just knowing those things because you want to be proud of them, or you want to boast of them. Say, oh, I'm just very good with people, or I know myself. I'm very reserved. No, you're not knowing those things because you want to be boastful. You actually know those things because you need to know where to work more, right?
On.
What you need to do to improve. You need to understand and say, okay, you know what? I tend towards getting angry quicker, right? So how do I even get myself? How do I work on myself? How do I ensure that I even give people that benefit of doubt? How do I improve on my emotional intelligence, right? So that self-awareness is part of it, right? It's the first thing. You have to be self-aware. Then you have to be flexible, right? You can't say, oh, that's
We
how
are
I am.
fixed.
That's how I am. You hear people say, man, that's who I am. I don't take rubbish from people. That's who I am. You have to be flexible, right? Because if everybody remain
The way they
strict the
are.
way they are, then there's no room for collaboration. There's no room for us to get things done together, right? Then the next one is for you to develop your skills, right? These things are what we really call temperament. At the end of the day, we look at it one way or the other. They are one form or the other when it comes to soft skills, right? So you need to start developing those skills, right? Those things you think you're not very good at, you have to start developing them. Now, the ones you realize that probably you cannot develop, right? Look for somebody in the team that actually complements you and try to establish a good way of working with that person, right? So you complement each other. What you're not good at, what the person
Awesome.
is good
Yeah.
at, right? So guys agree to actually work together on that. And yeah, most importantly, feedback. Feedback is very important, right? In everything you do, be open
So
to people
getting.
giving you feedback, right? One of the things I personally do is I don't mind who the person is, right? When I finish something, I know very well that after this interview, I'm still gonna ask I'm still gonna ask and say, hey, what do you think about the session, right?
No, okay.
So those feedback actually help us get better at what we do,
True.
right? Which is very important. So be ready and be open-minded. Tell you, oh, you could have done this better. You could have done it this way. You could have done it that way. Yeah, those are different ways for you to actually improve.
Yeah,
So
so listeners, you've heard, right? In this case, you need to just be open minded because a lot of persons just come from the mindset of, oh, this is the way it is from where we are coming from, or this is the way I am, this is the way I'm brought up, all those kind of things. And you've heard from the guest mouth that you also need to work on yourself in as much as you, yes, you, this is the way you are. We all know that, but this is not the way we want you to be for the project. So everyone needs to be open-minded for collaboration to set in and for the execution to be fulfilled positively. So, how do you navigate execution when working with temperament opposite to yours? Cases like you're reserved and the other person is extremely extroverted in nature. So, in this case, how do you both work together and ensure that there is no conflicts or there are no issues and just get the project done?
one very interesting thing about temperament is temperaments are usually complementing. They usually complement one another, right? So you start with empathy. You have to empathize with the person. Yes, that word empathy, I know it has been abused so many times. Everyone say empathize, 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 even when they are not empathizing. But in the real sense, we have to empathize in the real sense of empathy. I understand with you that this is what it is. I know you're trying to work to be better at it, right? But while you're working to be better at it, I can also help you to be better at it by rendering as much support as I can, right? I put myself in your foot. So let me give an example. Um, I have this teammate I currently work with, right? He understands somewhat that there are things I personally would not want to take, right? I enjoy working with this particular person because he understands like, hey, this guy, if this particular thing happens, he will not he's not going to take it lightly. So what this guy usually does is because he understands that and he foresees that this is going to happen.
Okay.
This guy usually be like, okay, most times we will jump on the call and say, hey, Isaac, see, this is going to happen. I know your response is going to be this, and this, but you know what? Let me handle it before it even gets to you.
Okay.
That's the real definition of empathy,
Hmm.
right? Not because I'm not, the person knows quite well that I'm trying to improve when it comes to issues like that.
Okay.
But he knows that at this point, he can't wait, we can't wait for that
To happen.
to happen. So he jumps on it and says, okay, you know what? Um, okay, I will handle it. And we both have conversations before you even handle it and say, okay, so this and this is what's happening, right? Okay, you know what? I will do this and this and this and this. This is likely going to be the outcome, or this is likely going to be the outcome of what I'm going to do. So if this happens, so you should be ready to take it on from here to this particular place. So that's the definition of empathy. So it's important to be empathetic, right? And again, I mentioned just now that we would have had both of us would have had conversation around this. Okay, this and this. So that's where open communication actually
Okay.
comes in. And another thing has happened in that same scene of what I've just explained now, which is role allocation, right? Both of us say, okay, you know what, I'm going to handle this part, then you can handle that part. I'm going to do this so you can do that, right? Um, let me give you another example. I have this team member that's not very great with documenting stuff, right? And it needs to document. What we do, you have to document. It's important we have it done,
Document.
right? So what we do is there's another team member that's very great with when it comes to all those documentation. In fact,
Just
leave him to just do that,
okay.
right? And yeah, you might think, yeah, documentation is a skill that you can develop, right? It also has a lot to do with temperament, right? There are people like They can talk all year long,
But they
right?
can't
But for them to
document.
document,
It's
no,
a
no, no, no,
big
no.
deal.
They can
True.
explain everything to you and make you get clarity on it. But when it comes to documentation, they will document, but it's not even going to be clear to you like they would have expressed it
Expressed.
verbally. So in that case, both of them understood each other. So what they do is, you know what, handle this. I'm going to do the documentation, you're going to do the presentation. So that's role allocation. So both of them know that you know what, if it comes to public speaking, this guy is very good.
Give it to me.
Give it to me, I will do it. But when it comes to writing everything down and detailing it the way it's supposed to be and giving it to the people that need to see it, don't worry, I'm going to help you do that. So both of them understand that and they're able to do that. And out of that comes respect. You won't catch either of them fighting and say, you know what, after I've been writing all this. No, they respect each other. They respect each other's strength and each other's weakness.
Weaknesses.
Right? I've seen two team members talk before and say, someone say, you know what, I'm going to fight the battle here, you're going to fight the battle there. Right? And together we'll come, at the end of the day, we'll come
Come to
together and celebrate our win. So at the end of the day, when they come and they are pressing somebody and say, oh, this person have done this, the person will come back and say, no, I'm not the only one that did it. So
We
see,
did
this
it
is the guy that has
together.
done the background work for me. So that has to be there. Respect has to be there. Role play has to be there as a role allocation or role play as the case may be. Then open communication, you have to be open. You can't keep things to yourself and expect that other people will be able to do whatever it is for you.
True.
Then you also have to be empathetic.
Yeah, in tech, there is a need to balance creative freedom with strict technical constraint. So, in this case, how does one temperament help or hinder the balance of execution?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Right. So, as much as tech actually comes with a lot of creative freedom, right? Also there are a lot of technical balance, technical constraints, right? It's very important for us to have some level of temperamental balance. For example, when we're looking at um, visionaries and strategies.
Okay.
There are two pairs that would always work together, right? So a visionary is actually talking about this is where we want to be, right? A strategist is focused on these are the steps we need to take to be there. But one thing is always very unique about these two people. The visionary most of the time forgets that there is a difference between here and there. They've forgotten that there is gap, there is distance. They've forgotten there is time gap, right, between here and there. And they feel like most of the times or some of the times they are living in the future that they are yet to be, right? And they need that strategist, for example, to come around and say, you know what, we're not there yet, but these are the steps we need to follow. These are the things we need to do to get there. So when you pair these two set of people, they actually complement each other perfectly well. So in a team, it's good for you to look for that person that actually complements you, right? And work with that person. So a strategist also, on the other hand, sometimes used to forget and say, hey, they have so much focus on fixing the now that they've forgotten that there's a destination that they need to be over a given period of time. So the visionary comes around and say, you know what, we need to get this done. We need to do this. We need to move fast. We need to achieve this. This is where we are really going. So both of them would always complement each other. Another thing is clear objective. You can actually can achieve so much without being clear with your goal, right? And I'm going to copy from what the Bible says, right? It says that write the vision, make it plain, right, so that he that reads it, right, may run with it. So if it's not clear, if it is not plain, you cannot run with it. Does that make sense? So you need to focus. You need to set that focus. You need to ensure that your vision, your goal is very clear. This is what we need to achieve, right? Now, when you are clear what you need to achieve, you are working towards it. You shut your ears to all form of distractions. You shut your eyes to all form of distractions. You're just focused on that one thing that you need to achieve. That single thing, that single objective, that single goal is what you're focused on. The entire team is focused on that. So irrespective of the differences that they have, because all of them are focused on achieving the same thing, it actually minimizes the whole friction that might sort of happen here and there. Now, the last one is iterative feedback. As you guys are taking steps, as you guys are progressing, be ready to get feedback iteratively, right? Okay, this is the feedback we have. We improve on it. We move forward. we get feedback, we improve on it, we move forward, we get feedback, you improve on it. And another thing that I would also like to mention is you notice all through this conversation, one thing has been very consistent, and that's feedback. Feedback is so much important. Like you can't just do so much without getting feedbacks and all you do. Personal feedback, external feedback, make sure that you're getting feedback as much as possible. And that will actually help you achieve a lot.
So, can a person's temperament evolve over time with experience, or is it that everybody's temperament is hardwired?
Okay, so when you're talking about maturity, it's actually the evolving temperament that comes that is if somebody's mature, right? You see a small child like wants to scatter everywhere when things are not going their way. Want to let's destroy it and let's not start all over again, right? But an adult we want to work around it and make sure that there's a solution to the problem. So temperament can actually evolve in essence, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Temperament can always evolve, and the key things to there are a number of factors that contributes to the evolving temperament, right, of people, and both on the job and outside of the job, right. Self awareness is one of them. You have to be self aware. First of all, if you're not self aware, there's not much you can do. You have to be self aware and say, okay, yeah, you know what, this is it. This is who I am. This is what I have been. This is how I've been doing this, right? This is my personality, right? I need to improve on this. I need to be better at this, right? So that self awareness is there. Then personal growth. When you're self aware, until you become self aware, rather,
You cannot.
before you can
Okay.
even start pursuing personal growth. How do I improve? Growth is more about improvement, shedding old things, right, and bringing on new ones, right? What makes us know that a tree is growing is when the tree sheds old leaf and come up with new leaves, right? That shows that the tree is growing, right? So the same thing, you have to um, unlearn. Okay, you have to learn, unlearn, and relearn,
Relearn.
right? So it's a cycle. The more we keep doing that, okay, learn, unlearn, relearn, learn, unlearn, relearn, right? The more we keep doing that, the more we achieve, the more we, what's it called? The more we keep getting better at what we're doing, the more
Relearn.
our temperament actually continue to evolve. Then another thing again is experience. This experience is the best teacher, right? Experience is actually the best teacher, right? Because I've done this way and the result is this way. What if I try another way? So I tried the other way and it gives me the result I want. So next time when I have that same incident, right, or next time I have that same situation, when I find myself in that same situation, I would likely treat it the other way that
Yeah.
works than the initial way that I've actually done it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I would say definitely temperaments do evolve
Over time.
over time. Yeah.
Thank you. So cases like this to the listeners, when you say, "Oh, I'm somebody that just share my opinion the way it is," I think over time you need to learn that in teams when you're with other members, it's not about how you feel, but about how it should be generally. So, like you've heard from the guest mouth, temperaments evolve over time. So, we should just be self aware about what we can do or how we do things and see how we can do it better. If you don't own up to the fact that this is the way you do your thing, you won't be able to see how to like work on those things and do it better just for the team execution to work perfectly. Thank you so much for this insight. Any last words you would like to share for the listeners before we close out on the episode?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the time here. So before I go, I would actually like to pinpoint some key things that I've mentioned before. Um, Improvement actually starts with it starts from the inside out, right? Not from the outside in. And I would say before you, well, if you, in as much as you know that you want to improve on your temperament or you want to and I want to your temperament to evolve, the first thing for you to do is self-reflection, right? It has to start from within you. Identify your potential drawbacks, right? Identify your strengths, identify your weaknesses, know what your advantages are and what drawbacks you have based on your temperament. And now you can start working on that. Now, after that, the next thing is for you to also listen to other people, get feedbacks, constructive feedbacks, right? Make sure you actually seek outside perspectives as well. What do people perceive about you? It's very important, right? Then from there, you can now come up with various programs that will help you improve. For example, am I too rigid? Do I need to be more flexible? Right? Do I have to be more flexible? How much do I make this? How decisive am I? Am I always confused, or I'm always very decisive on what I do? Am I very great when it comes to collaboration, or I have to depend on other people to collaborate? So, or I'm very apologies for that. Am I very do I collaborate a lot, right? Or I actually I love to run my own things my own way. Like I'm very solo. I do my things solo. So it's very important to actually know all these things, and you improve on all these things for you to be a better version of you and achieve greater things. Thank you.
Yes, so guys, wasn't that insightful? I'm sure you've learned one or two things, and you've learned not just learning alone, but also put it into practice so that you be a better professional in your role, irrespective of the industry you're in. So do well to please follow us on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll be sharing his handles on the YouTube channel, because you can just go reach out to the guest and learn one or two things from him. As you know, he has said a lot of things here, and we don't just want it to end here. We want you to continue the engagement by following him up on his own page, and you can ask him one or two questions if you feel like. This is the end, and I'm happy that you stayed till this time. I am your host, Iro Nkechi Omolola, and stay tuned for our next episode. Bye.